Good day, I am Fitzgerald Eyas of PS Architecture 5P. I will be presenting my study titled as Musa, Calibrating Communities, Exploring the Dimensions of Commitment as an Aspect for Effective Social Innovation on Agricultural-Based Neighborhoods of Panabo City. Communities are typically understood by the general public as a unit in a society. A broader perspective and meaning of a community are not just typically about its setting or context, but it's about the people, the feeling and relationships among them, according to Chavez and Lee. Moreover, according to Clarabot, members believe they can affect their surroundings and one another as a community, individually and collectively. Being a part of community might give the sensation that an individual is part of something bigger than themselves. The agriculture sector is one of the driving forces of the Philippine economy. It contributed 10.18% of GDP in 2020 and accounts for 40% of the country's employment rate, especially in the rural areas. In terms of the banana food chain, Davao region is the leading producer, with 725.76 thousand metric tons of production from January to March of 2022, accounting for 36% of the total production according to the Philippine Statistics Authority. The reduction of Philippine agriculture befalls into three factors. The government has failed to safeguard the best interests of the local farmers in favor of globalization and commercialization. Second, farmers are being influenced strongly by employment opportunities in other industry sectors to consider taking, which has an impact on the number of people employed in the agricultural sector and consequently has an effect on its endpoints. And lastly, failure to use newer technologies to enhance the productivity under the sector to meet the changing demands of the country. The term social innovation refers to a new approach to a social issue that is more successful, efficient, long-lasting, or equitable than the current alternatives. According to Nandi and Nudaram, the sustainability of agriculture, which nevertheless plays a significant role in developing economies, is threatened by rising rural-urban displacement, an aging farm population, and a decline in the interest of rural youth in the sector. There is no consolidated term for social innovation. It is related to multiple scientific fields and studies: technology, economics, sociology, organizational, and management theories. Franz et al. Mentioned that there should be a clear distinction between social innovation from technological innovations. Uncertainties exist due to the conceptual and definitional ambiguities of the term social innovation, as well as of concerning the diversity, range, and levels of its impact. Since social innovation takes many forms, the study will position the concept of social innovation as an umbrella term for a variety of cooperative initiatives using the dimension of commitment, precisely motivation, to address the wide range of problems of settlements in the 21st century. The study also aims to examine and analyze the following gaps of the body of knowledge and contribute new ones through the following research questions alongside the objectives it pertains. How is motivation related to commitment with regards to social innovation? To attain this, the research objectives are as follows: to analyze the motivation variables across the multidisciplinary individuals involved. Second, to differentiate how each variables of motivation affect the users. And lastly, to examine if motivation variables are associated with commitment. The second research question is, how can motivation affect an individual's capacity to commit socially? The research objectives are as follows: to examine an individual's level of motivation, to interpret how each level of motivation corresponds to their capacity to commit socially, to inspect if individual motivation corresponds to collective commitment for social innovation, and to analyze the data gathered between individual motivation and commitment. How are the relationships between the external factors of social, economic, and the environment related and moderate motivation individually and collectively? To answer this, the research objectives are as follows: to interpret how the external factors of social, economic, and environment correlate with the motivation variables. Second, to distinguish each motivation variables into the three categories. How are the different roles of individuals and multidisciplinary actors that will be instrumental to the process of social innovation? To answer this, the research objectives are as follows: to categorize multidisciplinary functions and how these correlate to social innovation, to interview and question community planning experts about the significance of multidisciplinary individuals. For research question number 5, how can the dimension of commitment contribute to an efficient social innovation? The research objectives are as follows: to interpret how social innovation works effectively, to examine and analyze how the dimension of commitment corresponds to the efficiency, and to examine and analyze how motivation functions to the structure of an effective social innovation. For the last research question, how can social innovation be attributed to spatial and built environment? The research objectives are as follows: to produce a framework that will serve as a backbone for the community, to outline concepts of social innovation related to the built environment, to illustrate from the results of study and determine how it will be applied to spatial planning and architecture, to analyze how it will impact the Sustainable Development Goals of 8, decent work and economic growth, Sustainable Development Goal 9, industry, innovation, and infrastructure, and Sustainable Development Goal number 11, sustainable cities and communities. The theoretical framework demonstrates the approach to the study utilizing the concept of an architecture for effective social innovation, System, Mastery, and Commitment by Christian C. Laws of the Stanford Center on Philanthropy and Civil Society. The independent variable focuses on the dimension of commitment. In achieving a future with inclusive growth, the industry should focus on its communities where the source of production is focused and the power behind the system resides, its people. Motivation under the intervening variable is an essential aspect of commitment. It will be examined to achieve the end goal of social innovation. The conceptual framework further shows variables and aspects the study analyzes, examines, and interprets. Illustrated at the bottom left are the comprehensive offshoots of the potential impediments categorized as the social, economic, and environment. These factors impose positive or negative effects on intrinsic and external motivation. Research has emphasized the significance of motivational factors. For instance, researchers in Australia discovered the farmers' adoption of conservation methods is influenced by economic, conservation, lifestyle, and social reasons. Malian Badi S. et al. 2020. Hypotheses of the study are as follows. Practical approach and structuring of social innovation suitable to the community can be attainable by exploring the dimension of commitment. Significantly, the concept of social innovation will only be feasible with the intervention of human actions, collectively and individually. External, social, economic, and environmental factors also correspond to the motivation variables, which moderate the capacity of an individual to participate, engage, and decide. Social innovation attributes to the spatial planning of the built environment and the spaces upon incubation and innovation. Underpinning the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations to address poverty in all forms, achieve inclusivity and address inequality, nature-based development solutions, efficient and responsive governance, resilience, and sustainability. It is projected to be valuable to the following entities: the people, specifically of the chosen neighborhoods of the study, alongside the communities. It will also strengthen the industry, adding a more green and inclusive path for the future. The planning professionals and academies, which would enlighten how these spaces are approached and designed accordingly. The review of related literature is thematically composed of three main motifs: motivation, commitment, and social innovation. The literatures gathered are identified as essential to the spine of the study in general. For social innovation-related literatures, social innovation systems for building resilient communities. The research proposes a lens of different channels to which the researcher in the profession of design and planning would be able to utilize in order to contribute to the study of social innovation. Moreover, the study further adapted diverse systems and frameworks that are generally feasible to develop and that can steer socially, economically, and environmentally resilient systems for commitment and motivation-related literatures. A literature review on motivation. The study looked at the late career motivation approaches from the point of view of early career motivation, Authors create a flow of inspiration or motivation. It concludes that if employees are given a good quality of decision making, their morale and attitude go up and have a direct positive impact on individual and organizational performance. Hypothetically, this would serve as a foundation framework for the study of community and what spheres of motivation could affect them given the different motives in this literature. Research on the relationship between cross-level motivation, integrated emotion, and virtual knowledge community commitment. As the study focuses on the aspect of motivation, the paper is essential for understanding better because it is linked with the element of commitment. In the study, the researchers concluded situational level enhances the social communication motivation at the contextual level. The hierarchy also introduces the community as a network of diverse actors where although varying factors may differentiate, it can be categorized and established into a systemized framework model. Whose narrative is it anyway? Narratives of Social Innovation in Rural Areas, a comparative analysis of community-led initiatives in Scotland and Spain. The study has shown that both collective and individual leadership can create participatory dynamics in social innovation. However, individually constructed narratives may be brittle and more vulnerable to leadership changes, power games, and actors' interest. This was emphasized that recurring problematization lays out the range of social needs, motivations, opportunities, and challenges that trigger the initiative as well as the context and time in which they take the place. It also allows us to understand why positive and negative reasons when and where social innovation is supposed to merge. This part of the video will discuss the proposed methodologies and projected outcome of the study. It is subdivided accordingly into three, which are input, which discusses the proposed methodologies and research subjects. The process will discuss the resources for the study and they will be utilized. And the output will project the impact and attain the objectives of the study. The composition of the study examines the dimension of commitment and how it correlates with an individual's motivation. The study examines and analyzes if these conditions would be efficient to social innovation within the community. The descriptive research will gather current knowledge and circumstances present in the locale. Therefore, a descriptive study will operate the research design, while the experimental research design will examine the relationship of the variables given the hypothesis. It will be adapted from related studies methodologies. The case studies would also relate and support the goals and objectives of the research and will answer questions the study wants to examine. The scope of the project is located at Barangay Davao, Panabo City, Davao del Norte, specifically the Farms 1, 2, 3, Packing Plant 91, and Homeland Subdivision. The researcher will be utilizing the local government unit of the said barangay to determine the population and will be utilizing a collection of demographics to determine the participants of the study. Moreover, it will also involve several experts and professionals outside the periphery in aiding the study to arrive on its goals. The process in which the study will take place is through the primary and secondary resources of the study. The total number of participants will be determined through a sampling design with its standard equation. It will also involve focus group discussions to aid and attain the goals of the study, in which it will be analyzed to arrive at a conclusion. Other forms of interviews will also be conducted to experts and professionals, specifically in the field of planning, agriculture, politics, business, and entrepreneurship. As it utilizes a descriptive method, an ocular inspection is also applied to inspect the current conditions of the communities. The conduct of the study will also follow a set of ethical conditions and guidelines. A directory of experts is also included to provide credible experts and professionals during the interviews and the collection of data. Projected outcomes will answer the research questions and attain the goals and objectives of the study. The study, which is a channel to alleviate the challenges experienced by the community, generally will befall into a social innovation, which will not only transform the relationship among the individuals, but also how they will interact. Merits of the study, specifically motivation and commitment, will help professionals understand and sympathize more with these agricultural-based communities. Moreover, as a channel, it is expected that the study will help achieve decent work and inclusive growth of the economy. It will also channel a sustainable approach of systems and planning of the industry, premise of innovation and the digital age and technologies. And it will greatly impact the communities, its spatial, built, and natural environment.